What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This one, me going over a couple of the submissions, or maybe unintentional submissions you guys have made by giving me your teams in the comments in any of the videos. Some of you have reached out on Twitter as well, and just sort of want to go over each of your rosters that you guys have drafted and sort of give you guys an overall rating. I'll go through each position, give you guys a rating for each position group, and then I'll give you guys an overall team grade, as well as just sort of general things that I would look to do to potentially improve your roster. Some of you might not have needed any of that, but if your team didn't make the cut, it's either probably because you didn't give me like a full bench or give me a league format or anything like that, so that I couldn't really utilize or really accurately grade them. So if you guys do want one to be graded here, I will be doing one more video like this next Wednesday as well, so right before the NFL season. So if you want to get in that next round, just to reply with a team in any of the comments, any of my videos that'll come out over the next week or so. You can also message me on Twitter with that, and I'll be sure to look over your teams, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. I'll probably cap it at like 10 or 15 for next week if we can get enough, because I only gave like 1 or 2 days notice for this last one, but now you guys will have a whole week for the next one. I'll try and get to 10 or 15. I cap it at 15 probably, because otherwise it'll take too long for me to make that video. But yeah, I think it'll be really useful. Even if your team doesn't get graded here, it should be useful for you guys to see how we generally look at rosters and then sort of see what I would recommend to do going forward. Again, as well, even if I don't get around to making a video or just highlighting any of you guys in the video, I'm happy to help you guys with your rosters. You're more than welcome to ask questions in the comments, and I'll do whatever I can. I'll respond to all of those. So yeah, a lot of fun making these videos, a lot of fun seeing what sort of squads you guys are making, and definitely just fun to really be in the heart of draft season, really sneaking up on the NFL season here. So yeah, with that, let's just get into the first team. So the first submission here is going to be from Samuel Owen, 643. It was on YouTube. He's in a 10-team PPR league, and his roster is quarterback is Justin Fields. At running back, he has Tony Pollard and Ramondre Stevenson. At his two starting wide receivers, he has Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs. His starting tight end is Kyle Pitts. His flex is T. Higgins, which is quite nice. He's got three pretty good receivers on his bench, and Mike Evans, Drake London, and Zay Flowers. And he's got three pretty solid bench running backs as well, and Antonio Gibson and Elijah Mitchell. At quarterback, I'll give him a B+, even though I'm not exactly high on Justin Fields, he is definitely in that tier 2 for me. Not a guy that I find myself targeting very often because I'm not very high on him, but I can't knock it if you are high on him. I think it's a perfectly reasonable draft pick. Really like the running backs there in Pollard and Ramondre. It's only just not an A+, just because it's, an A+ would be getting like 2 of the top 5 guys. Wide receiver, I'll give you a B+ here for Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams. Really can't do a whole lot better than that. I'm just a little bit lower on Devontae Adams than I think most. I tend to have a couple guys ranked ahead of him, like Chris Olave, even though that's maybe a little harsh. But I think overall it's a really solid wide receiver group. Kyle Pitts, I'm going to give you a B at the tight end spot there. I think that Kyle Pitts is just a really risky draft pick. I think I'd have him at a he's probably fallen into that tier of tight ends that I'd put like guys like George Kittle and then maybe even like Evan Ingram in, just a guy that I don't think has a ton of upside this season, a guy that I'm worried about volume, and a guy that obviously he's coming off an injury as well, so a little bit of concern there. Your flex, obviously that's an A+. T. Higgins is a slam dunk flex play. I really like your bench wide receivers as well. Mike Evans, Drake London, and Zay Flowers are all high upside guys as well. That's the perfect thing for you to do on a team where you have 3 stud wide receivers, because you want to swing for that upside and see what you can do to improve that. Your bench running backs, you've got J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Gibson, who I think you can play pretty much every single week. Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson are just some high upside flyers as well. I'll give you an A for that in your bench and an A+ for your bench wide receivers. If I were going to make any recommendation for ways to improve this roster, I would say that the first thing I'd look to do probably is potentially try and package Kyle Pitts with one of your bench wide receivers. Maybe see if you can package Kyle Pitts and Mike Evans and get like a Mark Andrews, even a TJ Hawkinson. Go for that upgrade at the tight end position. It's a little early. You could obviously wait and see how Kyle Pitts pans out, but if Kyle Pitts is a rough start of the season, his trade value is going to go into the tank, and that'll be pretty scary as well. But if you are super high on Kyle Pitts, if you're super excited about him this season, then just hold on. I think you've got a really solid roster, and there's no need to make any major changes here. So overall, a really good team. I'll probably give you an A- on the roster, just because I'm a little bit out on Justin Fields and Kyle Pitts, but a lot of people are in on them. I think it's a really reasonable roster, reasonable approach to the roster as well. So I like the team. A- is a really solid grade. I think you're set up for the season well. Next roster we're going to look at here is going to be submitted by NA Dave Nelson 8. He's in a 12-team PPR league. At quarterback, he has Justin Fields. His starting running backs are Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall, 2 really young guys there. His starting wide receivers are Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins. His tight ends, Evan Ingram. His flex is going to be Deontay Johnson, it looks like. On his bench, he's got Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, and Rashad Bateman. And his bench running backs are going to be Khalil Herbert and Elijah Mitchell. Overall, I'll give the quarterback grade a B+. That's generally just what I feel Justin Fields is this season. He's obviously got a lot of upside, but there's obviously some risk associated with sort of assuming he's going to take that step forward as a passer. At running back, I'll give him a B+ as well. You've got a really solid running back 1 in Bijan Robinson. I'm not really concerned about him at all, but Your starting running back 2 being Breece Hall is pretty scary. He's probably going to have a really tough start to the season, and that'd be one of my recommendations as well. Looking at your bench, you do only have Khalil Herbert and Elijah Mitchell at your running back spot. That means you could have a really tough start to the season with your running back spots if Breece Hall starts slow and Khalil Herbert doesn't pan out. I might be looking to maybe package or flip like a Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers for a more competent running back. Certainly an option. You don't necessarily have to. You could just hope that Breece Hall pans out, and it's a little early to really be making a move there, but I could see a world where your roster gets into a bit of trouble with your running back 2 spot. Your wide receivers are great here. Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins are really solid. I'll give that a B+, just because Higgins is like a low-end wide receiver 2 for me, and there is some risk associated with Cooper Kupp, but B+ is a really solid grade there. Your tight end, I'll give it a B. Evan Ingram's just, in general, a B caliber tight end. He's solid, not great. Probably going to finish like 8th overall at the position and be totally fine this season. At your flex, I'll give you an A- for Deontay Johnson. You're in a PPR league, so he gets a little bit of a bump. I don't think he's got a really huge ceiling this season unless Kenny Pickett just takes a massive leap forward. He's a really safe player, and in a 12-team league, I think he's a really quality flex. I like your bench wide receivers quite a bit. Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers are 2 guys that I'm super excited about this season. Although I would say, if I wanted to make a comment there, that none of those wide receivers really are guys that I'd be comfortable starting week 1. So obviously you're going to be starting Deontay Johnson in your flex for the first few weeks, and that if I were going to make another recommendation, it might be just to look for a different wide receiver on the waiver wire than Rashad Bateman. I obviously like Zay Flowers quite a bit, and I don't generally like the idea of rostering both Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. There's not really a world where both of them eat this season, so I think that it just sort of limits your team's upside rostering both, but it is sort of safe as well. You'll probably end up with the Ravens wide receiver 1 if you do that, so not necessarily a necessity. And looking at your bench running backs, like I said, Khalil Herbert's a perfectly fine bench running back, but I'm worried that you're going to need to start him over the course of the season pretty early on as well, with Breece Hall potentially being a guy that you can't really lean on early on, and then Elijah Mitchell's just a guy that you're going to be waiting on for an injury. So overall, I think this is probably like a B+ caliber team. I think there's a ton of upside associated with it. Pretty much across the board, you really swung for the fences, took a bunch of high upside guys. Guys like Fields could be the quarterback 1 this season. Obviously, Bijan could be the running back 1. Cooper Kupp could be the wide receiver 1. So you've got number 1 overall talent at all 3 positions, 3 major positions in your roster, and there's a hell of a lot of upside on this roster. But there's also quite a bit of downside. There's injury risk associated with Cooper Kupp and Breece Hall. I might look to I don't know, maybe just get out of that risky situation a little bit. I don't like to generally put that much risk onto my roster because, in general, I think it's fair to say that, one of those guys will probably not pan out for you this season, and it's going to be really tough for you because you are leaning on all of them pretty heavily. So I might want to just sort of diversify away out of that risk just a little bit, but I think the upside's totally there, and if you just want to wait and see what happens early on in the season, you could easily be just a dominant team this season. So really good team overall. A little bit of question marks surrounding the running back position, especially that running back 2, and otherwise, I think you got a really solid roster, and you're going to have a really quality season with this. Up next, we've got Tyrone Force 8199 submitting his team. He's in an 11-team PPR. I'm not sure if that was a typo or not, but I'm going to assume it was intentional. So 11 teams, that's kind of fun. But regardless, he's obviously got a really great quarterback here. His quarterback's going to be Patrick Mahomes. His starting running backs are Nick Chubb and Miles Sanders. His starting wide receivers are Chris Olave and George Pickens. His starting tight end is Mark Andrews. His starting starting flex will be David Montgomery. On his bench, he's got several receivers. He's got OBJ, Allen Lazard, Romeo Doubs, and Sky Moore. And on his bench at running back, he's got Kareem Hunt and DeAndre Swift. Overall, I really like the squad. Obviously, you've got an A+ caliber quarterback. I really like your running backs. You know how high I am on guys like Chubb and Sanders, so I'll give you an A at your running back spot. I think your weak point on this roster is clearly your wide receiver room. Obviously, I love Chris Olave. You guys know how much I've talked about him this offseason, but George Pickens as your wide receiver 2 is a little bit scary, especially looking at your bench on top of that, seeing that you're pretty much relying on Sky Moore as your wide receiver 3, and like Romeo Doubs, Allen Lazard as your 4 or 5, and then Odell Beckham Jr. as your 6. That's just really scary for me. I think there's a lot of downside with all of those guys. There's really nobody that I'm confident pans out in a high way, in a real way, the season outside of Chris Olave on your roster. So I think there is a world that exists where you are really hurting the wide receiver position. I am not very high on Odell Beckham Jr. either. I'd probably be looking on waivers to see if there's something better. But if you want to see what happens, I think you totally can. I just think that the name recognition is sort of why his ADP has been so high this year. At running back, right at your flex spot, I think David Montgomery is a fantastic flex. You are probably going to be a team that's starting 3 running backs every single week. That's generally a little bit suboptimal, just given that the lower tier of the running back 2s generally score less than those flex caliber wide receivers. So a little suboptimal, but I don't really have a problem with it. I think you're totally fine playing David Montgomery in your flex. Your bench running backs are a little thin, but like I said, you're starting 3, so it's a little bit more acceptable. DeAndre Swift's a nice high upside guy. I like the pick, given that you have 3 guys I'm confident in. And then Kareem Hunt's totally worth a shot. There's a world that exists where Jonathan Taylor gets traded or something, and he ends up being really useful. So overall, I'd probably give the roster an A minus. I really like the build. I'm just a little bit concerned about your wide receiver 2 spot. I think that could be an area that holds you up. If I were going to make any recommendations at all, I might suggest that you trade Patrick Mahomes or maybe Mark Andrews, but I'd probably lean towards trading Patrick Mahomes to get like a 1 tier lower quarterback and then a really quality receiver. Think like trading Patrick Mahomes for Justin Herbert and Amari Cooper. That would make you feel a lot better about your wide receiver 2 spot, make all of your wide receiver room just feel a lot better, and I don't feel like you'd lose a whole lot at the quarterback room spot as well. So that'd be maybe what I'd be looking to do, but obviously you could easily just wait and see what happens with George Pickens. Pickens could be a stud this season and be a breakout, and then you'd have a monster roster and you'd still have Patrick Mahomes. So I'd probably wait just a little bit, rule out the starting lineup for the first couple of weeks, but understand that if you do come across a point where you decide that you do need to upgrade your wide receiver room, I think trading Patrick Mahomes for Herbert and then an extra wide receiver or something like that would be a good way to go about doing that. And the last team here is going to be submitted by Ed Brewington 3. He's in a 12-team non-PPR league. His quarterback's going to be Tua Tagovailoa. He also has Geno Smith on his bench, so you can sort of pick and choose which one of those he's going to be starting every single week. His starting 2 running backs are going to be Jahmyr Gibbs and Rachaad White. His starting receivers are incredible. He's got Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. His tight end is Mark Andrews. His starting flex is probably going to be Alvin Kamara. At his bench at the wide receiver position, he's got Gabe Davis, Treylon Burks, and Elijah Moore. And his one bench running back is going to be Tank Bigsby. Like I said earlier, he's also got Geno Smith on his bench. I think Tank Bigsby being his only bench running back is a bit of a concern here. He does only roster 4 running backs, and one of them is going to be suspended for the first 3 weeks. My other main complaint would be that all 4 of his running backs are really poised to make most of their fantasy production by catching the ball quite a bit, and in a PPR league that does lower their values quite a bit. Looking at the quarterback spot, obviously that is what you punted on this team, sort of allowing yourself to build the super team that you have everywhere else. Tua is going to give you like a B minus at the quarterback spot. I'd give Geno a B for a bench quarterback, B minus starting quarterback, so wherever you want to put that there. Jahmyr Gibbs and Rachaad White, I'll give you a B for the running back spot. I think these guys have some pretty guaranteed touches this season, but I think their touchdown upside is pretty limited, so that does sort of limit what you can expect out of them in a non-PPR league. Your starting wide receivers are obviously A+ tier. You really can't do any better than Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. You're starting tight end and Mark Andrews. That's an A. You can't really do a hell of a lot better than that. Kelsey being the lone exception. I'll give you a B+ for your flex. Alvin Kamara's got upside once he goes back, but there is some risk associated with it. I do like your bench wide receivers quite a bit. Guys like Treylon Burks, Elijah Moore, and Gabe Davis are all guys that should have a lot of touchdown upside, especially Burks and Gabe Davis, guys that should be definitely more valuable in non-PPR than full PPR formats. And like I said, I think Tank Bigsby's a really quality backup running back, although I'm a little concerned that you're thin at the running back position. I think maybe I would look to just sort of improve my running back spot a little bit, see if I can maybe trade Gabe Davis and maybe even Rachaad White to improve my running back room just a little bit, get myself a more guaranteed guy, maybe a guy that's more slated to perform well in a non-PPR setting. Guy like, I don't know, Damian Pierce for Rachaad White and Gabe Davis, something like that. But overall, I do really like the team. I'll probably give it an A- here. I think the quarterback spot's going to be something that holds you back just a little bit. And on top of that, your running backs are sort of more catered to a PPR format, which is sort of why you were able to get those names so late. But the wide receivers and tight ends really could just carry you through the rest of the season. And if Alvin Kamara comes back and is really solid, he's going to be really great as well. So overall, a good team. I don't think you need to do anything prior to the start of the season. I think this is a team that can certainly compete all season. But if I were to make any suggestions, it would just be to sort of get a little bit more quality of my starting running back spot, try and really get some more guaranteed touches that aren't PPR oriented, because in non-PPR league, you're not really getting the benefit of those pass catching running backs. So yeah, a really good team as well, though. So that'll do it for the first I Rate Your Teams video. Only had 4 complete submissions here. There were a bunch of other you guys that had sort of submitted teams, but they didn't either include a bench or didn't include a league format, so I just really didn't want to spend too much time focusing on those, just because it would be hard for me to give you guys an accurate grade. So if you guys do want your teams to be graded or rated in my next video that'll come out next Wednesday, feel free to just leave a comment. Make sure that you give me your league format. Let me know if you're in a 10, 12, or 14 team league or whatever. Let me know your scoring format. PPR, non-PPR, whatever. If it's 6-point or 4-point passing touchdown, that's really useful as well. And then I'm happy to go through. I'll do up to 15 teams next week, so it should be a pretty long video if we do actually get up to 15 submissions, but I'll try and get to all of them that I can. Up next, I'll be doing my final league winning player list, so I'll give you the list of about 10 players that I think are going to be potentially league-winning assets this season, guys that I'm really targeting and I think have a ton of upside this season. So if you want to make sure that you get that video along with the next I Rate Your Teams video and all the other videos that are going to come out throughout the course of the rest of the offseason and throughout the course of the regular season, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like I said, I'm going to be putting out a video every single day up until opening kickoff, and then be putting out several videos a week as well throughout the course of the regular season. I'll be here all year to help you guys win your leagues, and really hope I can help you guys do that. So subscribe to the channel, like I said, if you haven't already. You can click the notification bell so you get notifications when the new video comes out every single morning. If you guys have already subscribed to the channel, please do just give this video a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm, helps me know that I'm doing a good job, and helps other people see these videos as well, and helps just make sure that I know that you guys are enjoying the content as well. So yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.